We're Mike and Fiona, a newly retired expat British couple living in Virginia. We're on a mission to visit all 63 of the USA's national parks. In this video, we thought we'd talk through our thinking behind our choice of using a tent to camp across the United States and up to Alaska. When we tell our friends that we're going on a 3-month road trip to Alaska, the first thing they say is, are you going in an RV, a camper van, trailer? And they're pretty shocked when we tell them that we're going to tent camp across the United States.
The second thing they say is almost invariably, oh, you have a car rooftop tent then? Nope, just a regular tent on the ground. So why?
So we've given a lot of thought to this, and we've actually had a lot of experience over the last 20 years of doing many different types of road trips. We used to go on family vacations with our 4 girls when they were young, and they enjoyed tent camping. We also, when they'd left home and did their own thing, we went on a road trip to California, didn't we?
We did. Well, it was a strange vacation because we sent our children to England to visit with their grandparents, and we flew over to California, and we had a beautiful trip to San Francisco and drove down the road. We went over to Vegas, we came back, we ended up in Los Angeles, and it was a great time. That was staying in hotels.
Yeah, and we've also done road trips where we've flown in and hired a camper van, and they've been pretty successful. The camper vans aren't all that comfortable, but they're pretty convenient and not too expensive, and we've done some national park road trips like that.
So we've had many different approaches to taking vacations, but overall, when we have been to the national parks, we've been camping in tents, and it seems you can really get in the middle of the national park and enjoy the wildlife and the scenery whilst you're in your tent.
Yeah, I think that's proven to be the best all-round experience, where we maybe fly into an area like Utah or Nevada, and then camp our way around a number of national parks. Now, we did look into a rooftop tent, and in fact a lot of people have suggested that, and they do look pretty cool. I'm not sure they would suit our use case. We tend to get to a campsite and stay for a few days, maybe 2, 3, 4 days, and explore in our vehicle without a tent strapped on top. Just seems like that doesn't really take advantage of a rooftop tent, which you have to put down to go and get a pint of milk or go out for a meal.
Yeah, I think a rooftop tent would be good whilst we were going up the Alcan, where we'd only be staying somewhere for 1 night.
Yeah. So we came to the conclusion that for us, tent camping with occasional hotels and Airbnbs would suit us best. So some of the characteristics of our camping experience lend themselves to tent camping, probably more than others. And we're not arguing with people who love to camp in their RVs or their rooftop tents, or they have a camper van. I'm sure that works for them. But for us, we love camping near or within the national park itself. We're close to the wildlife, we're close to the wilderness, and we really feel that's a more enjoyable experience.
So one of the things about tent camping is you have a community there, and we really enjoy having a campfire each evening.
Yeah, also often when you're in a national park camping, which is easier to access with a tent, you can also do some stargazing because they're often dark sky areas, and I love to do astrophotography, particularly landscape astrophotography. Some of the examples I'll put up while we're going through this movie.
Right, so waking up in the wilderness amongst the wildlife is fabulous. So I remember when we were in the Tetons, Michael would get up, he'd disappear, but he'd found this little den of foxes that the cubs would come out in the morning, and he was totally enjoying videoing and photographing the foxes.
Yeah, and in the Badlands, it wasn't fun at the time, but we had a squall blew through, and we found ourselves recovering our tent as a herd of bison walked through the campsite. That was kind of fun, in retrospect at least.
And then in the Rocky Mountains, you wake up to the elk making their noise, whatever you want to call it, their screech in the far distance.
Yeah, and our routine is typically I get up before Fiona and put the coffee on, and then I'll roam around the park and the campsite looking for birds to take a photograph of, or any wildlife that's knocking around.
So camping in the parks has given us many opportunities to be right where we want to be for the sunrises and the sunsets.
Yeah, and I think another thing about tent camping is anyone can have a tent, so they're very inexpensive. So we found ourselves going on tent camping trips over the years with groups of friends. In fact, we've run like a bear spotting trip down to North Carolina a couple of times with our friend group, and they all grab a tent and we have a great time down there.
There is kind of a camaraderie for tent campers. When we were in Florida, we met this great group of people. They were originally from France, but they all lived in Miami now, and they'd been in a friendship group for like 15 years, and they regularly went camping, and we joined them for an evening. That was very beautiful. I met another family who had, I think, 5 children and a baby, and they were camping, and it was their goal to visit all the areas in Florida that they'd never been to. So it's very versatile.
Yeah, and of course we have all the equipment already, or much of it, so the cost of tent camping for us is minimal. But also, I think one of the reasons why people have RVs rather than tents is that they like to take their pets along. We don't have a dog, so for us, it's easy to just take ourselves in a tent. But I'm sure that's a big factor for people who love their RV, that they can take along their dog on their vacations.
And then when they go for a hike, they have somewhere safe for their dog or their rabbit or their cat to be while they're hiking. A tent, you can't leave any pet in a tent.
So, yeah, despite our friends being shocked that we're going to tent camp our way around a 15,000 mile road trip to Alaska and back to Virginia, we think it makes sense for us, and we'll walk you through some of the reasons that we think a tent can work as well or better than an RV.
So if we're going to compare an RV to a tent, you're going to be thinking about the comfort. So in your camper van or your RV, you have a very comfortable bed, and it might be warmer. Although we have been in an RV where it has still been cold. It didn't have heating, and it was cold. We had to get some space heater for that too. Also having a kitchen just there with cupboards and pots and pans. When we had the little RV van that we had, that was really easy to cook and to clean up and to stay organized. So also there's the security. When you've got something that you can lock, you feel a little bit more secure. I mean, Michael's got all of his cameras and his camera lenses, which he's constantly having to drag around with him or leave locked in the truck. And it probably would be nice if he didn't have to take them all with him wherever he goes. But then he wouldn't have the right lens when he needed it. Yep. And of course, in the RV, you've got storage. I was really looking forward to getting to an RV, because then that would solve all of our problem, because we're in a condominium and we don't have much storage. So storing all of our equipment for camping is proving to be quite tricky right now, because we have bought a few more things to help us on our camping trip. So I was really for getting an RV. And when we looked at them, I thought it would be nice to get something that was a little bit bigger for when it's cold and rainy outside, that we would feel comfortable sitting inside. And in Florida, because the weather turned and got pretty cold, it would have been ideal to have had a camper van or an RV to be inside whilst it was cold outside.
Yes, so it's still a bit of a test for us. We'll see whether camping our way across the country and into Alaska, which isn't renowned for its warm weather, is going to be comfortable in a tent. But the prime driver for not going with an RV, of course, is the cost. When we did look at some camper trailers, we have a truck, so we could have pulled a camper trailer along, but it was pretty daunting, the costs involved.
We got the truck because we were going to have a camper van that we were going to tow along behind us.
Yeah, but when we looked at the price of camper vans, of course, new ones, even just couples campers, can be $20,000-$30,000. They don't hold a price, so maybe if we were going to do this for 10 years, you could justify losing maybe $3,000 a year. But if we're just going to use it for a year and then sell it, we could have a pretty heavy depreciation over the course of our ownership. But also looking at insurance, you have to buy camper insurance. That's about $500, I thought, for what we were looking at. Maintenance, who knows how much that would be. Taking it to Alaska could be anything from just minor wear and tear to some pretty major repairs that could be thousands of dollars. We also in Virginia have a 4% tax on buying a camper, and then another 1% a year or more, depending on your city, to just own the camper van. So that can work out $1,000 a year or something like that. And then there's the cost of sites. Many of the sites that we're going to be tent camping on are only, well, ranging from free in some places to maybe $50, $60 in others. Whereas some of the RV sites are much more expensive, ranging maybe from $60 to $100. The camper van or camper trailer also adds a lot of cost on fuel, because you don't get as good a gas mileage. And then because we live in a place where we can't store our trailer, we would have to pay for storage somewhere, which might be $100 a month or more. So it ends up being many thousands of dollars, maybe even $10,000 to $20,000 for us to do this trip with an RV or a camper trailer.
After we'd watched all of the people reversing into spaces, pulling through into spaces, leveling it, hooking up hoses, disassembling hoses, emptying water closets, we thought it's a little easier being in a tent.
So I guess we could run through the pros and cons of tent camping then, and that is our tent there on the picture. But obviously lower cost, and we've already incurred much of those costs by buying equipment already.
We have that connection to nature. It's great being able to wake up and hear the birds singing, and just to step outside and be in a beautiful place.
Yeah, and the tent is very portable, of course, and there's going to be some times on our big trip to Alaska where that's important, in that we won't be able to take the truck or any RV or camper trailer, because we'll be flying into the wilderness and then camping at the end of a flight. So obviously that means whatever we do in terms of most of our stays, we will need a tent with us.
Yep, so we did have to go buy a little tent, because when we go to Brooks Falls, we have to get there, we have to walk like a mile to the site, and then we're only going to be there for a night, and then we have to camp outside of the electrified area, where we're going to have to hike a couple of miles to camp just off one of the roads.
Yes.
So We are pretty versatile at camping, and we've got to know a lot about it. We've been to St. John, where we camped in a beautiful place, fabulous view over the bay, and we just had to carry in all of our stuff, and we're just very good at that now.
Yeah, and of course, there's plenty of cons when it comes to tent camping, and the biggest one is probably sleeping on the ground. But we have mitigated that to some extent by investing in a pretty amazing sleeping pad, the Megamat, Exped Megamat Max Duo. So while that's not very portable, and we won't have it with us when we're remote camping, it is pretty comfortable for most of our nights camping.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why I would have really liked a camper van was because of the protection from the weather. We are traveling in May up to Cuyahoga and Indiana Dunes, and that temperature's not going to be that good at that time of the year. And then in Alaska, it's going to be high of 70, and it could be a low of 50 overnight, maybe even get a little bit lower, might even snow. So you never know. And we're going to be, for the majority of the time, we are going to be sleeping in a tent.
Yeah, and a deal breaker for a lot of people when it comes to tent camping is not having your own facilities and not having your facilities handy. That was a big thought for us. We'll be camping on campgrounds where there are toilet facilities, but we'll have to get out of bed if we need to and go
dressed,
and use those.
Put your clothes on.
And
I've got some slip-on shoes for this event now.
Yeah, so like I say, that can be a deal breaker. That's exactly what we did when we were in Florida, and it worked out fine. But we'll see how we cope with it over the course of 3 months.
One of the cons is the setup and the tear down. If you're not experienced, it could take you quite a while to set up your tent and to tear it down now. If it's been raining, we're just going to tear it down. It's going to be wet. We're just going to have to stuff it in the back of the truck and then just put it up wet wherever we get to.
Yeah, and actually, while the whole having to pack away a wet tent isn't very attractive, I think some of the RV videos that we've watched suggest that packing up and setting up RVs isn't the easiest thing in the world either. It takes us maybe 15 minutes to put our tent up, and from what I can tell, it takes a lot of RVers that, of course, they get the benefits of services and hookups and all those facilities, but it's not a trivial undertaking, yeah.
No. So that's why we've decided to go with the tent. So I did count up how many nights we'll be staying in a tent, and it's a lot, but I think we can do it.
Well, you'll be the first to find out if we fail.